Josh, thanks for making time. I know you're a busy, man, but yeah, I was on your podcast, a month or two ago, and you've graciously, spent some time with me to talk about some founders. I've actually had a really good time doing a little background research on you. And so to find out, you've been an entrepreneur for most of your life, but yeah, so you had Huffy back in 2012, and you've written a couple books, which was amazing, and lots of speaking engagements. But then this Magic Productions, what can tell me about that? Let's start there, and we'll go to the future.
Yeah, so growing up, I was homeschooled, so I had a lot more spare time than the average person, and I was also pretty much an only child, at least till the age of 8. And so, you got to entertain yourself somehow. And I started I learned how to do juggling and balloon animals, and just entertaining has always been something that I really enjoyed, and fell into magic pretty early on. And it was one of those things that we were watching the street performer perform, and my dad goes, "Josh, you see how much money he's making? You're way better than he is, and he's making money. You could go out and make money on this."
Yeah.
So that birthed actually doing street performing and doing public air magic, which was my first little gig.
How old were you?
So I started street performing at 12, and it was this whole cute kid act kind of a thing at first. But I was always super tall, and so everyone always thought that I was much older than I was, which means that they didn't give me as much sympathy. My little brother had a juggling act that he did, and so we adopted him. So he wasn't 8 years younger than me. He was only 4 years younger than me. So I'm 12, he's 8, and he had this cute kid juggling act, and he would make like 4 times that I did, and with his jokes and his juggling. But here I am, like doing legit card tricks. The wind catches your deck and it goes everywhere. And I'm like, oh no. But anyway, so that's what started learning.
And so how long did you do that for?
So the last time I got paid for magic, because I started doing traveling. I had mentors. I was really into it, and I finally had a mentor look at me and goes, we're at a bar that he was performing at, and he goes, "Josh, what are you doing this?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Honestly, man, go get a real job." He's like, I'm here at a bar trying to pay rent for me and my son. And that actually hit me pretty hard, where I was like, oh, maybe this isn't a real job. It's funny now because one of my best friends makes a crazy amount of money doing magic, but he's very unique and he's figured out his niche very well. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I did it until about 18 for money. And then in college, you bust out a deck of cards and wow, a whole house party or whatever. And it's still to this day is something that I always have a deck of cards on me, even right now. You can always bust out something with someone.
Oh, that's amazing. I can't wait to someday have a beer with you. And do. I love the comment. Well, the last time I got paid for magic, so that might stick with me for a long time. So I guess, God, what an amazing, I guess, ability to sharpen your performing skills. But do
you want to see something real fast? Just a real quick one. This was like one of the ones that I would do pretty regularly. And then you could just go like, here, hold on. So you take it like this and then disappear and then right back. So.
Holy crap. Oh my God. Okay. I'm just wowed. You've got to be the best CEO, founder, boss ever. You're just always
I don't know about that. Just a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So how did that period of your life help sharpen where you are today in the sense of
oh my gosh. Yeah, so many things. Sorry, I cut you off. I got excited about it.
No. I want to know that what an amazing, God, talk about being 12 to whatever age and being a street performer. Talk about having to be comfortable out in front of people, rejection. Like that must have sharpened you and gave you a lot of skills to be able to go when you decided I'm going to start a business. How did that transition happen for you?
So much. So a bunch of things. Everything from learning that just because you get paid to do something and it's your own thing doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur. Because basically I had a job. So I was, if I didn't perform, I didn't get paid. That carried over to Magic. The True Magic Productions was actually my DJ company in college. And same lesson, I tried to hire other DJs, tried to scale it beyond myself, and just ultimately realized like this is a job. But the magic part, there's a lot of things we could get into about conquering fears, because the number one fear I think is death. Number two is public speaking. So like right behind it. And so there were so many times, man, when things would go wrong, like drastically wrong. Like we can't salvage this. Like I mentioned, like you built up this whole trick, you've done this whole thing in front of 60 people that you bring out in a crowd, and then you hold it too loose and a gust of wind just takes the entire deck and ruins your whole trick. Stuff like that you're just like, okay, well, how do you respond? How do you still under pressure? A lot of great lessons there. One of my favorites though was just this lesson about leading people. How do you lead your customers to the next thing? And so it cut me off if for time. If
no. I think this is great. It's great to get the insight of what you're taking from those early lessons, then applying it to how you work with your customers. I think it's amazing. So
for those of you who don't know, the art of public performing on the street for tips is called busking. So that is called busking. Okay. So you are a busker, and you can either be a drummer, you could be a dancer, you could be a robot guy, you could be a bushman who scares you. You could be whatever you want to be. You can make it up. You could be a yo-yo person or magician or whatever. And so what I picked up from busking was early on, I would watch the best buskers in the world. If you want to go to the Key West, Sunset Pier, you're going to see the best buskers in the entire planet are right there. And then there's like Busker Fest that goes into Boulder and all that stuff. So I've traveled around visiting those things. Even as a kid, my parents would expose me to it. And what I noticed was everyone would do this huge finale, and then they would do their call to action at the very end. And the awkward part was there was nothing. You had this whole community of let's say 100 people watching something and all enjoying the moment. And then all of a sudden they would say, okay, great, now pay me. And the whole thing would completely die and everybody's awkward and they don't know what to do. And so they would just walk away. I saw this with my own acts too. So I made one change that actually tripled my tips, where I started making when I stopped, my last time I did it was in South Beach, Miami. Granted, this was a different time. People were carrying cash, not as much plastic then, whatever. I made $400 an hour in South Beach, Miami, cash. I mean, it was crazy. I only did it for a few hours, and then I was like, dude, I just made $1,000 bucks. I'm done. I'm out. I'm good. Wow. But here's what led to that, and this was a great lesson to learn in business too. Is just how do you position your calls to action, and when do you lead someone to do something? So what I would do is I would always do about 4 tricks. I would lead everybody in, and we could break down each part, but we'll just get to the parts that's my favorite. So I would bring everybody in, we do this up, and I'd always hint at you thought that was good, wait till I show you my last trick. And that kept everybody in, right? And then finally, right before the last trick, I would say, hey, I just made this subtle change, and this subtle change was had the biggest impact. Say, hey, if you enjoyed my show, whatever, this was when I was younger. I'm trying to save up enough money for college. And if I make enough money doing this, I won't even go to college. Everybody would kind of chuckle and laugh, whatever. And I'd be like, so just throw in some, throw me whatever you thought this was worth, or just if you had a good time, enjoy. All right, let's get into the next trick. And I would say, now is the time to go ahead and pull out your wallets and get ready, because when we finish, you can go ahead and give me the money. Yeah. That change right there was the whole difference of it gave them something. It hooked them long enough that awkward moment of reaching into their bag, deciding how much money to give, all of that took place while they were still engaged. And I kid you not, I mean, it was the difference between like getting a couple bucks here or there to like filling hats worth of dollars and having to like dump it and then go to another. Yeah, it was just a complete change.
That's what a great insight.
Action.
Yeah. So now jump up a couple of years into Huffy. Like you started you started your business. How did you help kind of coach your team? Because you had a pretty good sized team. You have a team in your company, right? How do you take those lessons and weave them into the business model that you have to have that same success?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that was unique about us is one, we would hire very young talent, and all of our clients after the few years into the business, we had actually outgrown our city. Not because we were so big. It's just we needed people that had bigger budgets, and in our city there just wasn't those businesses were really hard to access. And everyone in the city, there was like 14, 15 agencies in that little city. Everyone was competing for those same clients, because they were the big dogs. And so we started getting business outside. So all of our business, everything happened over Zoom. And so there was a few things that we taught them is like, perception is everything. If you want to change, perception is reality. If you want to change reality, you need to alter perceptions. And that came down to communications and how you were on camera, frankly. And so this was 10 years ago. We had lighting kits that would go behind our camera. We called it the $1 million wall. We took one wall in our place and put in wood paneling and like upgraded it, like spent like $1,000 on just that wall. But that was the backdrop for every one of our shots, got good furniture in there. Even if it was uncomfortable, it looked really nice. All these little things that leveled up when we were meeting. Yeah. Another thing is we never showed more than 2 corners in any shot when we were shooting social media videos. Okay. And we were shooting videos for the client. And that was because you can't gauge space if you only see one corner. If you see 2 corners, your brain can fill in how big an area is. And so people thought we had this huge office. And dude, reality is we had this really tiny office. So anyway, and we have other things like, the way that we would communicate. We would teach our teams how to eliminate all passive language. Don't use words like just or maybe or would or it was all you need to be matter of fact about things. And that helped. Basically, we trained like 24-year-olds how to say no to VPs. And that was something that brought us and kept us a lot of business because they'd be like, wait, how old are you? And you already know this stuff? And the reality was they may not know it, but they had enough confidence.
They know the triggers to do the right things at the right time. So, okay, so now you started off as this, I mean, being a street performer, it's all you. Spotlight's on you. If it goes bad, it's on you. You don't feel like you want to work that day. You don't make money. So as you build your team, how did you make a shift leadership wise? Because I mean, you're having to now rely on people. So how did you motivate the people around you, and how did you learn to evolve yourself to be a leader versus that single person who was like, I'm just going to do it all myself?
Yeah, great question. First, I went and worked for a really bad boss. So right out of college,
a lot of the way you look at where you want to be and what you want to do in life.
Right. I had the opportunity. I tasted a lot of jobs. Some of them I only worked for a week or two, and then others I worked for a few years. But by the time I was 22, I had worked over 22 jobs. I just literally and sometimes I was working like 4 or 5 jobs at one given time because, they'd only need me every other Saturday, or it was like a gig type thing. And that was to pay for college and all that kind of stuff. So that gave me a lot of perspective on a lot of leadership styles, working for these leaders and being underneath them. That was really helpful. I just always wanted it to be fun. It's like we're on this earth for such a limited time. being an entrepreneur, you're making up everything as it is. Why don't you just make it up and make it fun? And so, especially when I learned about like tax write-offs, that was a big thing where we were like, hey, how about we pay people lower wages, but we just like give them we just shower them with perks, because we can get, you can wheel and deal and get better perks, and, you can do bulk buying and all this kind of stuff that, we did our team's laundry. We had a laundry service that you'd bring your laundry and the laundry service would come to the office, pick up all the laundry and then drop it off at the end of the day. And like stuff like that were like huge improvements on people's lives. And it wasn't that expensive. But we were giving back people time, it's things like that. So that was fun.
Do you think perks versus praise versus salary? Like, where do you think that people are most motivated to be passionate to come in every day? What are some of the things that you're like, these are the cultural things that we always have in our teams because I know it just works?
Probably, I mean, I would say a little bit of all the above, but I do think perks are significantly overlooked. Because, for an example, that laundry service was so cheap in comparison to the value and the perceived value in everybody's mind. It was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, what a time saver. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Laundry right now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so, and it's just annoying time, that you're like, and so that was cool. Really it does come down to having a good balance. There's, if you read like EOS or Traction, any of the EOS books like Traction or Rocket Fuel or anything, there's a visionary and there's an implementer or integrator rather. I think integrator is what they call them. But and there's different things you can call them. You can call them like operators and whatever else, different whatever.
Yeah.
But basically, like having a leadership team that's comprised of at least those two roles is really critical, because I know this about myself because I just brought in an integrator into this new thing that I'm launching right now, and it's been light and day. Even people have already started making jokes. They were like, wait, Josh, you don't have like section 4, 5, 6, 7 to present right now. Like, and I'm like, like Ben's here. Like, I don't need those things. Like Ben and I have already vetted all this stuff out, and Ben says the direction to go. So this is the direction to go. Like, I'm good.
But what a great freedom. I know I had the same experience when I brought EOS in, and I was trying to be both, and you just can't. You really need that integrator operator person where you can then, because you need to be working 6-12 months out on the business. And if you're just stuck in the weeds and you're just trying to coach, mentor, and drive the day, you just get stuck in the weeds.
Yeah. So if I was to give some concrete advice, I would say making sure you've got that balance at the top, and then making sure you are prioritizing the time for SOPs. And just now with AI, it's crazy because I have team members that are just creating gems or projects or custom GPTs with the SOPs that we built 6-7 years ago. And those rules and like how-tos and stuff are writing better emails now and are spitting out better information that fits more with our style. And that's been really cool. And so
that is such a great example of how you can start using AI, right? I mean, everybody's got their knowledge base. They've got their SOPs. No one ever keeps them up. They're probably already a year or 2 or 3 years old, but to refresh them and to make them actually part of, and I've been trying to model this too. It's like, you got your horizontal way you run your business, right? Left to right, stuff comes in, people touch things, you go to renew, and you have this vertical layer, right? And so figuring out how to get the layers to actually work together. And I think you can really use AI to drive some amazing coaching, mentoring process for your team. So that's amazing that you're doing that.
It's fun. Well, and to give praise where it's due, this actually came from one of our Gen Zers, where I'm amazed at the output that they're actually doing. Keep in mind, like I was mentioning, that we've been training young talent for a long time, and there was times where it just felt like I was basically like teaching free college. because it was like, man, I feel like you should know this stuff. And here I am like going over the same things over and over. Can you please reference the SOP? Can you please reference a communication doc? Can you please reference this stuff? Like, I don't know why I keep telling you to stop using the word just in the middle of an email. Like, just eliminate that word from your vocabulary, or offer clear times. Don't just say, are you available next week? Like, come on. Like, it's just like so many little things, right? And I had 2 of those discussions, which I'm used to having those all the time, with one of our new team members. And then the next email she sends me as a draft, I'm like, this is amazing. This is awesome. To walk me through your process. And she was like, well, I finally just, updated my gem with those knowledge-based articles that you said.
You're telling me to read.
Like, and now they're more in line. And she's like, and I saw that it caught all the errors. So it's fun to see how, and we can get it out. That's a whole topic in itself. But but it's fun to see how the learning was still there. She knew what to look for. It wasn't like it was replacing her knowledge, and like learning how to catch those things.
That's the transition we want. Like, use the tools to make everything around you better and yourself. Like, make it easier. Like, how easy was that? Yeah. Well,
exactly.
I know we're running down a little bit on time, and I know you're busy, but I wanted to hit you at least one more question, because this has been one super cool to start with magic and go through and see how you're coaching and mentoring your culture, things that you're doing with AI. I think is phenomenal. But I guess you as a leader, and just you as a person, how do you keep yourself motivated? Because it's not easy, right? I mean, there's ups and downs. You have doubts. You have people you got to take care of. You got a life and family, and I know. Yeah. How do you keep yourself motivated? Or is it just ingrained from the days of magic?
Right. There is an aspect of, I've gone through times where I was waiting for motivation and inspiration to find me.
Yeah.
It never happened in those times. And so, I was like waiting on the couch, like, well, I guess I'll just spend it, I'll go do another week of doing this. And what it always came back to is me just writing down a list of things that were in front of me, and then just going bravely into the unknown. And motivation and inspiration came through the work, and came through the failures, and came through the successes of figuring stuff out. Now, being that I have this skill set, and if you have these skill sets, congratulations, awesome. You're in the unique group of people that we actually get to decide what we want to work on, and we can use passion as an inspiration to do that, because we have more skills to do that. I hear too much, like, just follow your passion. It's like, you got to be good enough at something to be able to do that. Nobody's excited about holding a sign in the middle of a hot asphalt road. You should go. They're not passionate about that. But like, if that's what they're using to provide, good for them. Keep at it. But if you gain enough skill sets where you can have the ability to decide what you want to do, then fantastic. Just for me personally, I've always gotten passionate about the way things work and how they work, and dissecting them, and just following the money. And so right now I'm working in an industry that a lot of people, even people in the industry, don't find that interesting. So I'm working in law firm operations.
Yeah.
Of all things. I never thought that would be something that I would be passionate and excited about. But because I love helping people, and that's at the forefront of this, because we're helping people find money that have cancer or whatever else. They have all these things that it's a whole long process they have to go through, and we figure out how to expedite it. So we're getting people money, and it doesn't cost them anything until you get the fees. And so that's great for them, all that good stuff, right? But it's more about like seeing, wow, we figured this out in this industry, and we figured this out in this industry. So we can take those same lessons and apply them here. That gets me excited. I just got a text message a minute ago, which was one of the partners screenshotting some things that someone else was telling him about. And he said, like, in all caps, the firm is so excited. This is amazing. We're blown away by this. And so those are the rewarding things that now come full circle, where you're like, okay, cool. Like, I'm not the only crazy person who's excited about this.
Yes.
Now they're seeing it and getting excited. Yeah. And it's validating, and that passion is exciting. But, I think you have to set yourself up with like puzzles, probably is the best way to say it.
Okay.
Like little small tangible problems that you can actually solve and find success and reward in those and solving those and knocking each one off slowly but surely. Because a lot of times we set our passion or our motivation around a very, very huge, super hard attainable goal that might take years to accomplish. And so how do you get excited about that when everyone around you is like, hey, dude, are you sure this is the right move? And you're like, no, frankly, I'm not, but I can't say that because I need to basically keep pushing forward. So anyway, that's the way I've been.
I think that's great. I just actually got recommended a book called Tiny Experiments, and it's that concept. It's called, it's about, instead of having this audaciously huge goal, which you can have, but it's about having the micro experiences that validate your steps forward. And if something's working, keep doing more of that. If it's not working, you got to pivot, because then your goal is not validated, right? So
I think we've all read like Good to Great, and we've been like, oh, well, it's our BHAG or whatever, and like big, hairy, audacious goal, and we're like, that's what I should all have. And you're like, if you're making money and it's sustainable, then create a BHAG. If you're figuring it out, like, dude, you're in the lab, bro. You're doing science experiments. You're like figuring out, like, is this work? 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 And then once it starts working, once you have a freaking conveyor belt and you're like pumping out whatever you need, and you've got predictable revenue, you've got good clients, like, okay, now create your BHAG. But
now you do. No, it's great advice. Well, Josh, look, thank you so much for your time. This was so much fun. And thank you for telling me the magic story. And you performed a magic trick. That was amazing. So man, where can people connect with you if they want to get in touch with the Magic Man?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn always is a great, you're super active on LinkedIn. So by all means, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm slow to respond to DMs, but I will respond eventually. So LinkedIn's great. And then I go through phases where I'm very active on Instagram. So that's another spot. But I'm Josh Harcus on everything. So at Josh Harcus on any platform, you'll find me.
All right, bud. Well, you enjoy your day. Thank you so much for the time. And be in touch. Maybe we can get together next week.
That'd be awesome. All right, man. See ya. Great job.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.